This is the Competitive Edge and some cold email madness.
Welcome to the Competitive Edge. My name is Scott Britton, and I'm here to help you answer a question that we all have. How can I get an edge in my business and life? Each week, we're going to uncover how some of the most successful and inspiring entrepreneurs, entertainers, and thought leaders get an edge so you too can reach your full potential. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's get started.
What's up, Competitive Edge listeners? Thanks for tuning in. Today we have another selfie. That means it's just going to be me and you and some awesome tactics. Tell me if any of these things sound like something that you would like more of in your life. Consistently generating new sales opportunities and partnerships, meeting the CEOs of companies that you admire, connecting and interviewing New York Times bestsellers and other entrepreneurs who interest you, make initial connections that could potentially turn into a mentorship, get free access to products and services. Now, what do all of these things have in common? Well, in my personal life, all of these things have been the results of cold emailing, and cold emails that I've sent have got me these things. And I think that whether you're in business or not in business, being one click from anyone in the world is an incredibly powerful place to be. And for me, that is why I have spent the past couple of years trying to get really good at cold emailing, and why I think it's just such a high leverage skill for you to learn. So I recently did a interview on Growth Hacker TV on cold emailing and got a ton of good feedback. So I thought today I could share with you a lot of the tactics that I shared in that interview, as well as some new ones that I've come up with recently and probably haven't shared anywhere else. And this has been a topic that I have multiple courses on, that I got me a lot of deals in my last company. And if you're interested in more of the things that we talk about in this particular podcast, I'd head on over to coldemailmastery.com. That's a course that I created. It's about 5 hours long, has a ton of good stuff in there, as well as just Lifelong Learner best. If you go to lifelonglearner.com, which is my website, and then you head on over to Best Stuff, you'll see a new cold emailing class as well as a business development class that I'm coming out for people in the local space. So people that reach out to restaurants, spas, just businesses that have storefronts. Anyways, let's talk about cold emailing and give you some strategies and tactics. Real quick, I just want to address any concerns about the legality of sending cold emails. As an individual, you can absolutely send cold emails. And as a business, you can send unsolicited emails, messages as well. If you send these in a one-off instance, not to like a mass list, I'm pretty sure that you can send emails to anybody. And even if you do buy a list, which I've never done, you are allowed to send unsolicited emails to the businesses. And here are the guidelines. I'm pretty sure these are just for if you actually purchase a list, to stay within the CAN-SPAM or the Anti-Spam Act policy. Number one, the subject and header must not be misleading. Number two, you must have a valid physical address in your email. And number three, you must include a way to opt out from future communications. And you can go to the FTC website for more information on that. But as far as I know, if you're an individual or you're sending one-off email addresses, the sky's the limit for you. You can do whatever you want. This is all legal and you won't get in trouble. Okay, let's go to the tactics now that we got that question out of the way. And I guess we could start this off by really just saying why cold emailing is a good thing to do and why I prefer it over cold calling when we're talking about getting meetings, we're talking about connecting with people. The thing about cold calling you need to realize is that every time you cold call someone, you're basically interrupting their day. So odds are that the person on the other end of the phone is not sitting there waiting for you to call them. They're probably working on a project, in a meeting, whatever it is. So I like cold emailing because I don't want to start a relationship off with me interrupting you in the middle of your day. I'd much prefer to contact you about something that you might be interested in when you're ready to process that message. email is amazing because it's an asynchronous communication mechanism. So every time you hit somebody, they're highly engaged in what you have to say because they're checking their email. So for me, I mean, that's the number one reason why I'm much prefer cold emailing. And ultimately, like whether you're going to be successful is by calibrating with the people that you're trying to reach, right? So for example, the last company I worked at, Single Platform, a lot of these old school business owners, like the guys who owned restaurants, they're not really good at email. So doing the cold email strategies wasn't always effective for them. A lot of times you had to penetrate their existing workflow with cold calls. But a lot of bigger companies, like publisher deals I've done, like connecting with some of these authors and stuff for the podcast, their preferred communication mechanism is email. So that is the best place to reach them. And you can even take this through to social media, right? There's a lot of people that I have a better response rate from when I hit them up on social media because that's how they communicate with people and that's where they hang out all day. If I try to email them, it's like a black box. So in general, you always want to try to reach out to people and connect with people on whatever platform they best communicate on. And there's certain people in my network who I'm buds with who I will always try to hit them up on Twitter or Facebook over email, even though they use email a lot, because they never get back to me because they have a zillion emails and I know their response rate is going to be faster. So just a real quick tidbit there is if you have busy friends, if you have busy people, try to understand which platform a particular person that you're going to interact with frequently uses and gets back to you in the fastest, and just keep a mental note of that. And then that's the one that you want to hit them up on. And this can even extend to text messages as well, by the way. But today we're going to focus on cold emailing. And I want to give you guys really just the unconventional strategies because there's a ton of blog posts and stuff out there that you probably heard of and might seem obvious. And today I just want to give you stuff that you probably haven't heard of or maybe you didn't think about, or just, different ways to approach this art of being one click away from anybody. So let's dive in right now. So before you send the cold email, you have to figure out who the right person that you need to be emailing is. This is especially the case when you're trying to reach out to big companies and get deals with them, or just trying to drum up new business, right? Because if you don't get in touch with the right person, odds are that the person who's receiving it might not think it's important. That person who actually needs to see it might never see it, and then you're dead in the water before you've even given yourself a chance to succeed. So there's a lot of different places where you can figure this out. If you don't already know the decision maker, one of my favorite places to go is LinkedIn. LinkedIn's beautiful because it lists the hierarchy of a company, and a lot of times in the profile descriptions of somebody, it tells you exactly what they do at that company, which is awesome. However, like a lot of times there's like 28 marketing directors, right? Or there's a bunch of people who are potentially in charge of what you need to get in contact with that company for, but you don't really know. So one little trick that I wanted to give you is trying to look at the implicit data available on somebody's LinkedIn profile. When you have like these 5 or 6 different people that could be the decision maker or initial stakeholder, but you aren't sure which one. So implicit data that you can use to kind of narrow this down. Number one, there's a skills section on someone's LinkedIn profile. And this is basically skills that they've been endorsed for by other people. And I have a distinct picture in my mind of a LinkedIn profile that I've seen before where this person was a quote unquote marketing manager at a company. And they had 13 endorsements for advertising, 1 for social media, 1 for branding, 1 for SEO, and 1 for digital marketing. Now, when you see that, do you think that this person is managing the advertising budget or the social media? Odds are, because they've been endorsed by 12 different people for that one particular skill, this person's managing the ad budget. So the skills and interest section, very good place to get this implicit data. Another place, somebody's previous work history. A lot of times, the people, when they get hired onto new companies, they'll get lazy. They won't fill out the profile description section. And odds are, like, when you reach a certain level, people are hired for their expertise. So if somebody was a search engine marketing manager at their past company and it lists all the different things they did, and at the current company it just says regional manager or something, my guess is this person might be doing search engine marketing at the new company, right? They didn't get hired for a director or VP position of something that they've never done before in most cases. So you want to look at what this person's done in their previous work history if you don't have a very descriptive profile. A third place you want to go is the endorsement section. So this is where people basically write at the bottom of the profile, other people write recommendations and kind words. And if you pan through these, you can often see like specific projects that this person's worked on, maybe specific assignments and tasks. And this is like a goldmine of finding out exactly what this person has done, both at that company and previous companies. These are all non-obvious places to kind of narrow down who that decision maker is. Okay, so that's some juicy LinkedIn strategies for finding the decision maker. I'll give you another strategy right now, and it's playing off the informational cold call. So a lot of times you don't know who the right person is. At a company, I'll call in and ask, hey, Scott Britton from so-and-so company here. Any chance you know who manages the marketing department or social media marketing or whatever their initiative is? And a lot of times what happens is when you call in and you don't have a name of the person that you want to talk to, you'll just get put through to a generic voicemail or not get somebody's name that you can use to guess the email address to eventually email this person, because you sound like a cold caller. You sound like a salesperson. A lot of times this works, but sometimes it doesn't. One trick that I like to do is basically call in using the name of somebody who used to be responsible for that particular initiative. So if you go onto LinkedIn, you search in the company section and you do an advanced search, you can actually pull up something that's called previous work history. That's like a checkbox in a filtered search. And in the keywords, you can type in like marketing within a company, and then you can type previous work history and highlight that company. So basically you can find like the X marketing director and the X advertising person and all these people that maybe used to be the right person. And the way that I found out about this strategy is that I kept finding people on LinkedIn who used to be the right person but weren't, and it was really frustrating. And then one day I called in and asked for that person, and I realized a magical little strategy exists there. So what you do is you call in and you ask to speak to that person who used to be the right person, right? So let's say that Mary Jo, I'm trying to connect with the director of marketing, and Mary Jo Lane used to be that person. So you call in and say, hi, can I speak to Mary Jo Lane, please? And the person on the other end will say, oh, you know what? Mary Jo actually doesn't work here anymore. And then this is where you basically can say, oh, you know, I know she used to manage marketing for you guys. Is there any chance you might know who her replacement is? And often you have a much higher likelihood of getting that right name now. And let's talk about why for a second. When you reference somebody that used to work there, you're signaling that you have familiarity with this company. And if you have familiarity with this company, there's just a higher likelihood this person on the other end thinks, oh, this is important. Maybe they used to work with us, whatever it is. And that increases the compliance of them giving you the name of the right person that you need to talk to. So at no point, if you're wondering about like the ethicalness of this tactic, I mean, at no point you're lying. You're just simply asking for somebody who used to work there with some inside knowledge that they probably don't work there anymore. So I don't have any ethical issues with this, but this is a highly effective tactic that has worked a ton of different times for me. So again, you can go on LinkedIn, find out who used to work there, and call in and ask for that person, and then ask who the replacement is to get the right person. There's a lot of other implicit data sources online that you can use to determine the first and last name of the people to eventually guess their email address outside of just LinkedIn. So if you go to articles that have been written about the company, or things like Quora posts, which is a question and answer site, or press releases, a lot of times there'll be comments from people. I see this a lot on like TechCrunch articles. Pay close attention to the person who's responding to the comments from the company. Often that is your point person if that article is related to a particular initiative. So, I remember very distinctively seeing companies answering questions on Quora about their company, about the marketing of their company or the business development, whatever. Guess who's answering the questions? The person who runs business development there, the person who runs marketing there, the person who has expertise there. And the same goes with articles and press releases. So pay attention to that. That's an excellent place to figure out, who the right person you need to get in touch with is. And you can simply Google the name of the company plus article plus PDF plus whatever it is to identify these articles to ultimately find out who the decision maker is. So I was just mentioned earlier in this course that I was creating a product for local businesses and basically how to get in touch with the decision makers at businesses that have storefronts. And again, if you go to lifelonglearner.com, you go on, there's a top tab that says best stuff. You'll be able to find that product. I haven't named it yet, so that's why I can't disclose what the name of it is right now. But on Facebook is actually a gold mine for getting this local business information. If you go to a local business's Facebook page and you go to the About section, a lot of times they're going to give you a manager name or they're going to give you a manager email address that you can use right there. But another clever little tactic that you can use is go onto the pictures posted by that business. And a lot of times these businesses post pictures of their staff, of the owners, whoever it is. Go to those pictures and see the people's names who are tagged at that business. And once you see their names that are tagged on Facebook or that are responding to the comments on the Facebook photo, go on to LinkedIn and search those names and see what that person's responsible for. This is kind of a reverse engineering tactic that I've seen to be highly effective, but I spent 10 minutes doing it and I found the names of 5 owners of local businesses in my hometown by simply looking at who is tagged in the pictures of the business, who is responding to the comments. So another great tactic, if we're talking about small time businesses, to basically find out who that person is that you need to email. Okay, so there's 5 strategies here. I got probably 10 more that I could give, but I want to cover a lot more different parts of the process here. So we're going to dive into the next section, which is actually finding the email addresses of these people at the businesses that you can reach out to, or your heroes, or whoever it is that you're trying to connect with. Okay, so a big part of the name of the game here, in order to guess somebody's email address, is to get the full name of this individual. And what you're going to do with that full name, which we just covered in how to get in the decision maker process, is to use common syntaxes to try to guess the email, right? So a lot of times, like my email, one of my emails is scott@lifelonglearner.com. So it'll be the first name of the business owner at their website.com. Or maybe it's first initial last name or first name dot last name at thebusinesswebsite.com. And when you have these syntaxes in the full name, one of the first places that I like to go is mailtester.com. Mailtester is more or less a service that checks whether an email is registered on a particular domain. So basically the idea is just to plug in the common syntaxes and see whether the email address exists. And if it does, it'll say email is valid. If it doesn't, it'll say email is invalid. Another thing you can do is use the popular Gmail plugin called Rapportive. That's RAPPORTIVE.com. And you can also get that on the show notes of this episode on lifelonglearner.com. Is to do the same exact thing. Guess the syntaxes, and when you guess the email correctly, you will see on the right-hand side of your Google inbox all the social profiles and online data available for that particular person. And that's indicative that, oh, you know what? That's the right email address. When I guess sbritton@lifelonglearner.com, I don't see anything on the right-hand side, but when I guess scott@lifelonglearner.com, wow, there's this Facebook, Twitter, Quora profile, all the different places he exists online. That is the correct email address. An unconventional tactic that I wanted to share is how you can use the Twitter search engine Snapbird. If you go to snapberg.org, you can put in any handle and search the Twitter history of that particular handle. Now, why this is valuable is you can search things like at gmail.com, at yahoo.com. And if you know the handle of the business or person you're trying to reach out to, you can identify those instances when that person has given away their email address on Twitter. So a little story here is, one time I was trying to get the contact information of one of the most popular growth hackers on the internet. And I couldn't, he had a contact form on his site. And I know that emailing through a contact form is pretty much a black hole and seems super unfamiliar. And I didn't want to be just another person trying to get through the noise there. So I went over to Snapbird, I put in his Twitter handle, and then I just searched at gmail.com and was able to identify a specific instance where he gave away this random Gmail handle that had nothing to do with his name or website or anything, and was able to hit him up on his personal email. And you can also do things too, like you can type in different words that would be indicative for different words that would be indicative that that business would use to respond to somebody on Twitter. So you could type like email or email us or marketing or whatever it is, whoever you're trying to get in contact with. Think of the words that they might respond to somebody who is tweeting at them where those email addresses might exist. This is super powerful, and you can even find decision makers this way. A lot of times people will ask on Twitter, hey, who should I reach out to about this? And if you can identify and isolate those conversations, then you can find the decision maker just through the Twitter response right there. Super, super valuable. Another place that I like to go is manta.com. A lot of people don't know about this, and that's manta.com. It is, think of it as like a Yellow Pages, but for businesses, B2B. So instead of serving consumers, it's serving businesses that are trying to sell other businesses. Why this is valuable is that you can find a ton of information that's relevant to the actual business, like who the owner is, what their email address is, how long they've been in business. A lot of times, especially in the local business space, you'll be able to find all this information just on Manta. You don't even have to go to all these different places. So I highly recommend checking that site out. That's great. And another really cool little slide tactic is to take advantage of SlideShare and YouTube. So a lot of people, when they give presentations at the end, they'll have like, for more information, contact us at XYZ. So I first like to go to SlideShare, and I'll type in an @ symbol plus the name of the company. And I'll usually, if this company has, or person has happened to upload a SlideShare, you'll be able to find the email address. So for example, if you go to slideshare.com right now and you type in @lifelonglearner in the search bar, life-longlearner.com in the search bar, you will find a presentation on sleep hacking where in the last slide, I give away my email address. So all that text on those slides is searchable. So you want to type in the @ and the domain name of the person you're trying to reach out to, and you'll probably able to find potentially that person's email address, or in the very least, see the naming convention that company uses for email that you can then plug and play using the name of the decision maker. The same goes on YouTube. The challenge is that YouTube's not as searchable, but if you go on there and you find presentations by a particular person that you're trying to reach out to, at the end, if they'll often have a slide in the presentation like, hey, you can reach out to me on this. This is my email, which is an excellent way to, again, identify the email address of these people. And come to think of it, I just realized a lot of people on podcast actually give away their email address. Like, yeah, you can email to me directly at whatever. So go to podcasts and then fast forward to that little section where people say, where's the best place to find more information about you for that particular guest, and see if that person gives away their email address. It's another place you could go. Okay, so there's a ton more tactics that are out there, but those should give you a good baseline and starting place to find email addresses once you have the full name. Let's go into what I call email mindset. And this is a foundational thing that you should think about whenever you're crafting cold emails, and honestly, whenever you're crafting emails in general, because for your emails to be effective, the first thing you need to do is make sure they get read. And I like to apply what I call a copywriter's mindset to my email. So the foundation of the copywriter's mindset is that in order for somebody to respond to your email, they first have to read it. And the way that people read is a progressive process, right? So in order for me to first open the email, you have to write a subject line that gets somebody to do that. And in order for me to read the second sentence, I have to read the first sentence. So the way I think about it is small goals, right? The goal of the subject line is to get somebody to open up the email. The goal of the first sentence is to get somebody to read the second sentence. The goal of the second sentence is to get somebody to read the third sentence. The goal of the third sentence is to get somebody to read the fourth sentence. And the goal of the fourth sentence, if you have one, is to get somebody to respond. And that is the way that I think about these emails as I write them, because a lot of people, they just write these like Bill Shakespeare novels that don't have any sequential thought behind them. And you have to realize that if you don't captivate somebody's attention in the subject line, they might not open it. And if you don't captivate somebody's attention in the first sentence, they're probably not going to read the second, third, fourth, and so on, and eventually get back to you. So you have to think about the structure of your email in that way, and keep in mind that you're basically competing for somebody's attention. So in today's world, I mean, if you're emailing anybody important or busy, you probably get a ton of emails. Like I get 150 to 200 emails a day. That is a lot. And there's people out there that get way, way more than me. So if they don't know me, like I got to stand out, because a lot of the emails that they're probably getting are probably from people that they already trust and know. So, you know, the goal of a lot of these, the first sentence and the subject line is to get somebody's attention, and also to make it as frictionless and easy as possible for this person to read the email and get back to me. When somebody opens up an email and it's like 8 to 10 sentences long, if they don't know you, they're going to look at it and be like, okay, this looks like a lot of work to read and respond to. I don't know this person. My life is great. Whatever. I'm out. I'm not going to do this. So, you know, when you think about that, like that brings into mind that you want to keep cold email short. I aim for 3 to 4 sentences in those cold emails. And another important component of this is you also want to space them properly. If you have the difference between 4 sentences that are spaced 1 sentence apart each, and 4 sentences that'll jumble together, in terms of the perceived amount of work it takes to read and respond to that, is totally different, right? So you want to exercise spacing. The general rule of thumb here is that I never try to have more than 2 sentences together without a line paragraph break, because it's just easier to read. Now I hear a lot of people probably listen to this like, dude, how can you possibly include everything that you need to within 3 or 4 sentences? Well, my response to you is the goal of the first email isn't to, you know, sell the whole barn. It's to start a dialogue. And once you start a dialogue and you build a conversational chain, then it's easier to get people to commit to things and start to insert information that allows you to take it to the next step. So my goal with a lot of first emails is just to get somebody to respond. And after somebody's bought in, then I will ask for something that has a higher maybe more friction in terms of compliance, like asking for a meeting or asking for somebody to get together with me or whatever it is. And here's a little trick. If you really need to include more than 3 to 4 sentences, include 3 to 4 sentences, sign off like best, your name or your name, whatever, and then space out like 3 line breaks below that, and type in a, by the way, BTW or PS, and then add an additional 2 to 3 sentences. So this is something that I would do with my podcast. I would write a 3-sentence email asking somebody to come on to my show, sign off my name, and then I would put 3 line breaks down there and then say, by the way, if you're curious about what the competitive edge is, you know, here's a quick description. And this allowed that person, when they first saw the email, to see the top part, like, oh, this is 3 sentences. This isn't that daunting. And that separated by the way section wasn't jumbled in with the larger email body to make it seem like it was daunting to reply to. So these are things that I just like to keep in mind with my email mindset. And another thing I'll talk about real quick, And I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here, but this stuff is important. And I get a lot of questions in the courses I teach and the training and coaching I do is what do I say? Like, how do I address people? And my mindset is I like to be informal, and I want to put myself in the bucket of how people converse with their friends and trusted colleagues. So friends and trusted colleagues do not send emails that say dear, right? When your friend emails you, or maybe somebody that's a trusted colleague, they might say hi, they might say hey, and I want to get informal on email as fast as possible. And you always want to calibrate with like the person on the other side of the conversation, but generally, like, I want to separate myself from the people that are selling stuff and pushing stuff as fast as possible. My way to do that is to take the conversation informal as soon as it's appropriate to do there. And what you want to do here is just kind of calibrate and mirror the tone of your prospect, right? So if the person that you're reaching out to, if you notice on Twitter or Facebook or wherever they are, or maybe in their writing, they're using smiley faces and are super informal, then just start off from the gun, like say, hey, and then say, hey, when you write to them. And then in the email copy, like use smiley faces and winky faces and all that stuff that shows that you're a normal, fun person. If you have a prospect you don't know do that, have a more formal email, say hi in the beginning, write the email. And then in the second email, you want to try to open them up to informalness. You want to use colloquial dialogue, things like, hey, maybe a smiley face in there, maybe ... things that make you seem more human and not like another sales or business development guy who's, an Excel jockey running down 500 cells on a hit list. And eventually the goal is you want to take these emails, which seem like letters, to text messages, where eventually you're not even including an address when you're emailing somebody, but after maybe the fourth, fifth email, it's just a back and forth without any address. It's just the actual questions that you're asking, the things that you're responding to, and that's like how they email their friends. So you want to put yourself in that bucket and show that you're a cool person, because the bottom line is when it comes to business, when it comes to interviews, when it comes to spending time with people want to spend time with and do business with people they like. And as far as I'm concerned, 90% of people in my experience like fun, casual, laid back people. They don't like high strung, formal people. It's just not as fun to interact with them. So you want to demonstrate that in your email copy as soon as you can within the confines of it being appropriate. And that's really a feel thing that you have to develop over time. But being able to direct a conversation to an informal tone at the apt time is a very valuable skill and something that you can engender rapport with somebody that you don't know much faster. It's just a way to accelerate the bond with somebody that you don't know and to separate yourself from all the people out there that are not writing like that, because most cold emails I get suck, and they're like, "Dear so-and-so, I'm this cool person from this company," and that doesn't sound like somebody that's fun. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And actually, an important topic that I want to bring up here is just that first sentence, because this is something I see a lot. So, we talked about how being concise and short is important. We just talked about how being somebody that you'd want to hang out with, coming off as that is something important. I see a lot of people that write their emails and the first sentence, it's, "Hi, my name is Scott Britton from lifelonglearner.com. I've been featured in such magazines," or "my company has been backed by whatever." And the way that I like to think about this is, what type of person would you want to interact with at a bar? If somebody came up to you and started declaring themselves and how awesome they were, would that person be interesting? Like, would you want to talk to that person? I certainly wouldn't. Like, if somebody came up and was like, "Yeah, I'm really cool and I raised all this money. By the way, my name is Scott. Anyways, tell me about yourself." Like, that is so not good social skills. So I try to act the same way in my emails. The first sentence, I never make a town crier declaration about myself. It's always about the prospect. It's always an inquiry, maybe something like, hey, I noticed that, this particular thing, you were on this podcast, or I absolutely loved your book, or something about that person that's going to make them feel good or grab their attention. That is the goal. And just the general tone of your emails, I always just like to do the bar test. If I read this, if somebody came up to me and said this, at a bar, would I be interested in talking to this person, or would I think that this person is a total self-absorbed tool? And if it's the latter, you want to change your copy. And an effective practice to even write emails is just record yourself asking this person a question or starting a dialogue with this person, transcribe that or listen to it, and then write the email from that. And that's a great way to kind of inject this, make sure that you inject this conversational tone, and you're removing yourself from the crappy email conventions that some sales guru or email guy taught you about that really dehumanize you. And for some reason, people continue to follow, even though that they're highly ineffective, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, I'm off my soapbox about that. Let's talk about specific formulas that you can use today that have worked for me and are applicable across multiple industries and situations. The first formula is one of my favorites. It's something I used a ton at Single Platform. I use a ton on my podcast to land world-class guests, and it's called the bandage formula. And the idea here is, again, coming back to that first sentence, your goal is to grab somebody's attention. And the reason I call it the bandage formula is the high-level structure of this email is the first you want to irritate the wound and then provide the bandage. So what the heck do I mean by that? First sentence is you should be trying to glaringly identify the thing which you can help with or that can be optimized. And you want to also mention this in your title. That is the wound. Then you want to follow this by introducing your solution or ability to resolve the shortcoming. Let me give you a specific example. So let's say the prospect's name is John and you are selling a marketing solution. Hi, John. I noticed that your site currently isn't running my marketing solution, whatever it's called, which typically increases customer signups by 20%. Implementing our marketing solution is actually something that we help companies with, like yours, all the time. In fact, it's something that referenceable deal 1, 2, and 3 are taking advantage of right now. If there's a day next week when you have 10 minutes, I'd love to connect so we can talk about getting this taken care of for you. So let's go ahead and break this down. And that's a 4-sentence email. So the first sentence, the goal is to irritate the wound by telling the prospect that you notice that they're under optimized. And I love the phrase, I noticed, because that seems like a very personal, as a matter of fact, observation that caused you to reach out. It does not position yourself as somebody who is looking at a giant spreadsheet and going down one by one and just firing off emails and carpet bombing anybody under the sun. It comes off as somebody that, hey, I was online, I was already doing this thing, and I noticed your site doesn't have this thing which actually is going to make you much better. And what I'll do in this sentence is I'll put a hyperlink somewhere that allows that person to click and easily verify the under optimization that I'm referencing. This could be a particular part of their site. It could be a case study or research that demonstrates the value of the particular thing that I mentioned. In this instance, where I talked about increasing conversion rates by 20%, I could link to a testimonials or case study on our site. I could link to the part on their site where they're missing that thing. Whatever it is, the goal here is to provide verifiable evidence to your initial wound indicator. Now, the second sentence is where you introduce the facts that you can help this person. Implementing this solution is actually something that we help companies with, like yours, all the time. And after that, I'll throw in some social proof if I have it. So that's the, in fact, it's what we do for companies like XYZ, or in fact, these particular companies or people are taking advantage of it right now. And you want to make it easy again for these people to verify that you're a legitimate player, that you should be taken seriously, and that they're potentially missing out on something, which is a huge motivator. We as humans are more afraid of losing or missing out on things than personal gain. And that's a big reason why when you reference that other people are doing something and throw some social proof in there, that's a motivating factor to get people to act, and in this case to reply, because that FOMO is a very powerful force that is prevalent across the internet, and there's a ton of different studies that back that up, but I'll let you research those yourself if you want. Last sentence. If there is a day next week when you have 10 minutes, I'd like to connect so we can talk about getting this taken care of for you. Key elements, 10 minutes, right? So you want to make it seem super low time commitment. And if you say like an hour or whatever, this person's like, I don't know this person. Why would I want to hop on a call with them for that long? So I like to say 10 minutes, and hopefully an initial qualifying call only does take 10 minutes. But if it takes longer than that and you're worried about potentially misleading this person, when you get onto the phone call, you can say to them, hey, I know I said this call is going to take 10 minutes, but sometimes with different people that we talk about our business with, we kind of get excited and we really dive deep into how we can help them, and things actually end up taking a half hour. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that if that's the case, that's okay with you. If not, I'm happy to try to condense this in 10 minutes or as fast as possible, or whatever it is. So that's a way to handle that, and be honest and ethical when you get on the phone with this person, because you don't want to be misleading. Again, first impressions are everything. And then I want to talk about this key phrase here at the last sentence. I'd love to connect so we can talk about getting this taken care of for you, right? That phrase, getting this taken care of for you, signals that this is an obvious under optimization that needs to get fixed that other people are doing. It is informal, and it makes it seem like it's not a big deal and that you want to help this person out. That is, in my opinion, incredibly powerful. I've seen it work. I've tested this last sentence, and I mean, it's just super effective. There's a lot of people out there like, don't you want to finish with a direct call to action or a direct question? That can work too. I've split tested. I don't see a significant difference between this and some of the other, direct CTA things. I've actually gotten a higher response rate when I've said things like, I'd love to connect so we can talk about getting this taken care of for you. And I think it's because of the psychological factors at play that this phrase signals when you say something like that. Another phrase that's, if you're not comfortable with that, you might want to finish a sentence off, and this will kind of get into our next formula, the dialogue builder, that you just ask a question that allows them to respond to you, and you start a conversational thread, right? Before you end up asking for somebody's time. She might say something like, and this is a great way to qualify clients too, by the way, which we talked about in the Aaron Ross interview, if you listen to that, is adding this type of solution, something that you guys are currently thinking about, or have you used this type of solution in the past? And this is a great question you can ask, not only to build the dialogue, but to also understand whether talking to somebody is going to be a total waste of your time. If somebody doesn't even know what this is, or is already working with a competitor, and then they're not going to move, or just some factor that you see as a red flag, asking a question there that surfaces the answer to whether that person is an ideal client and whether there is a red flag there is a very powerful thing you can do, and kind of allow you to just cut out those time wasters in the cold email process before you hop on the phone with somebody and find out that, oh, it turns out that this person's never going to work with us for whatever reason. So that's the Bandage email formula. You can adapt that to whatever your industry is, however you can help people. It's super effective. And if you want more examples of that, I would head on over to either Cold Email Mastery or any of the other email posts I've written. You can just Google my name and cold email. You'll get some good stuff on it. Okay, let's talk about the dialogue builder. And this is another one that builds upon this theme of when people are in a conversation with you, and they've committed and they've replied to you a couple times, they're more likely to want to be congruent with getting back to you and committing to you, and are going to be more likely to want to get on a meeting with you or get on a podcast with you or whatever your ask is, right? So the goal of the initial email is to really just begin a dialogue. And what's also valuable about this is when you have a dialogue with somebody, you have more touch points to provide value to them, to understand what they care about, and ultimately figure out how you can help them. And that makes it, once you have that diagnosis, it makes it much easier to position a potential ask that somebody's going to care about. So what I'll do is I will basically ask a question that is an obvious yes, and then indicate some type of bait, more or less, that might get them interested in responding to me. So subject line is going to be something like the prospect's name and then quick question for you. And then I'll say, hi, first name. Are you currently, something they obviously are going to say yes to. So if I was reaching out to a blogger, like, hey, are you currently trying to grow your email list? If I was reaching out to a catering company, are you currently at capacity? If I was reaching out to a physical therapist, are you currently accepting new clients? Like, all the goal of this thing is for that person to read that first sentence and go, yeah, like a bobblehead. You want the bobblehead effect. And then in the next sentence, you want to indicate and transition into how you are working with people to help them achieve that. And I like to take, in some instances, in a highly crowded market, take a buyer's mentality, or the mentality of, I want this person to qualify or to want to start to qualify themselves to work with me or whatever it is. Because if there's a lot of noise and this person's getting a lot of emails, a lot of people will basically look at like sales emails that people are constantly trying to push their product or idea or commitment on somebody and be like, I don't want this. But all of a sudden, like if you demonstrate some status and then indicate to this person that you're interested in whether they fit that status, that's a powerful place to come from. So the next sentence will be something like, we're working with some of the top businesses or top bloggers or top whatever to drive more value. So we're working with some of the top physical therapists in Lower Bucks County, which is my hometown, to help them get new clients. And I wanted to see if you guys were a good fit. That's it. I mean, that is it. So asking whether this person is accepting the obvious thing, then in the next sentence, indicating some status. So like, we're working with some of the top whatever to drive whatever value is. And I want to see if you're a good fit. And that person's going to get back to you and be like, wait, what the heck? What are they talking about? And it's like, yeah, I am trying to drive new clients, and tell me more about your business, or tell me more about your company. A big mistake that I see in cold emails is a lot of people give away too much information. And when you give away too much information, that person feels like they can make the decision about whether they want to hop on a phone call with you or commit to something before you've even given yourself a chance to sell yourself. You are always going to be able to sell better in person over the phone than you are going to be able to than like static text or PDF. This is why I suggest never attach a PowerPoint or deck or anything to a cold email, because you're basically saying to that person, hey, make the decision before I get to talk to you. And this text thing is actually going to disarm all your concerns and be able to dynamically respond better than me on the phone. Like, that's just not the case. That's not the case at all. So you don't want to give away too much information that allows this person to basically make the decision before you've gotten a chance to talk to them. So that's the dialogue builder. It's worked awesomely for me. And I figured a good thing that we could transition to real quick is to how to handle some of the common responses that we get, not only with the Bandage email and the dialogue builder, but just with a lot of cold emails out there. So let's go ahead and start with, when you send a cold email out and you don't get a response, what do you do? Well, I think first you got to realize The reason that people didn't respond to you is often not because they're not interested. Maybe it got lost in their inbox. Maybe their kid had a bad day at school and they just feel they declared email bankruptcy. Maybe they meant to get back to you and they forgot about it. A lot of the times people don't respond to you it has nothing to do with the fact that they're not interested. And that's an empowering mindset, because it should allow you to be okay and more excited about being persistent and following up with this person. So if I don't get a response 3 to 7 days after I've emailed somebody, what I do is I pull up that initial email and I reply to it, still emailing that contact. And I'll say something like, "Hi, John. I wanted to see if you had a chance to read my email below regarding improving your site metrics," or whatever it is that you emailed them about. "Is this something that you guys are currently interested in? Or is this a focus for you right now? Or have you ever thought about this?" Whatever it is, ask them a question. And the key thing here, and I see a lot of people mess this up, is that you reply to the original email. A lot of people send a follow-up email that is on a different thread. And when you email somebody in 2 places, they have to work to get more context of why you emailed them. So they have to go find the other email. Your email is going to be longer. When I send an email that is 2 sentences long and all the details of why I'm reaching out is below that original email, that is super easy for that person. They can just look down, get all the information they need. And when they see the 1 to 2 sentences, it doesn't look daunting at all, which makes them more likely to respond. So, I mean, this is totally the way to respond when somebody doesn't get back to you. And I've seen response rates go up 50% when you take this strategy. Now, a huge thing that people mess up is they forget to be persistent and follow up. So I use a tool called Boomerang to help automate the process of having to remember following up with somebody. I use Gmail, and I will send an email, and as soon as I send the email, a little yellow box will come up in Gmail that says undo or view message. I'll click that, and then I'll click the Boomerang for Gmail plugin and have that sent back to me in 4 days. And this way, I know this is a trigger that I'm creating, that if that person hasn't gotten back to me in 4 days and that message comes back into my inbox, I'm just going to reply all and make sure that they responded. And I mean, this little strategy is something that I use for everything. When I ask my roommates for something and I want to make sure that they did that thing, I mean, I'll send a Boomerang back to myself in 4 days. Basically, whenever I ask anybody for anything and I want to close the loop there, or I want to make sure that there's no open loops, I'm constantly boomeranging myself messages after I send them, just so that I remember and don't have to hope that I happen to think of this thing that I asked for and then take the action that I need to get something done if it hasn't been already. Another common response that you're going to get when you cold email people, especially if you're not a big qualifier, is, "We work with competitors," or "We're working with somebody else," or whatever it is. And when we talk about positioning, and this is a little businessy, so I realize there's some people in here that might be listening to this and they're more focused on like how to reach out to potential mentors, but a lot of the same principles apply here. When we talk about positioning yourself and competitors and all that kind of good stuff and strategy, you always want to be, unless you're 10x better than somebody, you always want to be different if you want to make it past somebody who has an incumbent product or service. Because when you're just a little bit better or a little bit cheaper or whatever it is, usually the switching costs are too high for that person to want to make a change. So the way that you can get around that is you position yourself as unique or different. And in my case, I always like to go complementary, because the truth is no 2 products or services are the same. And because they're not the same and you could provide potentially additional value, that makes you complementary. So for example, if I was selling a marketing automation software and turns out somebody else is working with another marketing automation company, and they get back to me and say, "Hey, thanks, we're all set here. We work with XYZ marketing automation company. What I would do there is try to highlight the unique difference that I provide and how we actually are often used in tandem with that company, if that is the case. So you might say something like, hey, that's great. It's amazing that you see the value in marketing automation. The thing is that our company is actually different, and we actually provide this particular unique ability that right now so-and-so doesn't have. And for this reason, there's a lot of companies out there that use both of our products to get enhanced results. In fact, many of our customers think that we are a 1-2 punch. And what I've done there is tried to reframe the response from, okay, I'm evaluating apples versus apples, to I'm currently using an apple and this guy's telling me about a watermelon. And perhaps apples and watermelon is going to be a great lunch. I don't know if that makes any sense, what I just said, but the analogy made sense in my head when I thought of it. So the idea here is that you want to, always try to reframe yourself as different or unique. And when there's an incumbent player there, try to bring up and then start a dialogue around how you can use your solution with what they're already doing, or your service, or whatever it is that you do with that particular thing. And a lot of times, a good thing you can do here is offer to educate somebody, because people love learning. They love new things. They like honing their craft and sharpening their spear. So if your unique ability is something that this person doesn't know about, you can ask them a question that will segue into you potentially offering an opportunity to hop on a call with them and educate them on that particular thing. Okay, so let's get to one of the final common response that you'll get when you cold email that I see a lot, besides no context, is somebody says just flat out like, we're not interested, or we're not a priority right now. How do you deal with that? Well, the number one thing that you can do is try to get to the bottom of why they're not interested. Because when you understand why something's not a priority or why they're not interested, only then can you disarm that person and iterate on your positioning so that you could potentially be interesting. So when somebody says, you know what, appreciate it, not interested right now, thanks for the email, here's an example of how I would respond. Thanks for getting back to me. Totally understand you have a million things going on right now, and appreciate your candid response. Any particular reason why this isn't a good fit right now? That's it. Or you can expand on it by saying something like, the reason I ask is because some of our most successful clients felt the same way until we were able to educate them on the power of whatever unique value proposition or initiative is. And the goal here, again, is to figure out why this person isn't interested. And if you want, maybe entice them about how somebody else has gotten a lot of success that used to feel that way. And really just try to get an understanding so that you can basically come back at them and have a better idea of what might be enticing to them to get them to do a 180. Another thing you could do in this case is, especially if somebody says this isn't a focus right now, that to me is like a giant flashing light of, this isn't a focus right now, but when this is a focus, I want to be the first person they think of. How can I get mind share? How can I be top of mind? And the only way for you to be top of mind is consistency. There's a statistic out there that says like somebody needs to see you 7 times online or something before they think to buy something like that, or before they remember you without you prompting them. So in that instance, when somebody says, not interested right now, what I like to do is ask for their permission if this is a high value prospect or somebody that I want to build a relationship or whatever, ask for their permission to periodically send them information that's going to keep you top of mind. So I might say something like, totally understand. One of the things that we do is pick out the top 3 to 4 articles on how whatever it is that they do improve, or best practices to send. You want to pick something that's relevant to this person and send them to people that we see as influencers every single month. Would you be interested in receiving these articles, or would you like to take advantage of the curation, or would it be okay if I sent you these 3 to 4 articles every single month? And at that point, most people are going to say yes. Like, most people want the top 3 to 4 articles that are going to make them better every month. So you want to pick something that is an absolute no-brainer, that gives this person, that you're actually going to execute, of course, that this person will comply to hearing from you every single month. Another thing you could do is, if you have like a software product or something like that, is say something like, totally understand, that's absolutely cool. We're constantly innovating and coming out with new features that are changing the industry and are helping people get X result. If you want, I can keep you in the loop as we unleash these features, and when it makes sense to talk, we can hop on a call if the timing's right. And usually a lot of times people will say yes. If they say no, then you can then go ahead and position yourself for the article ask. The goal is to take that no and to establish an ongoing, consistent touch point that allows you to be the person in their frontal cortex when they're like, okay, we need X solution that you provide. That's the goal. Okay, so this has been a little sampling here, a good little selfie on cold emailing and a sampling of some of the more sophisticated training I do. And again, this is so valuable because if you can get in touch with anyone in the world simply by sending an email, that is a powerful place to be. It's pretty awesome. And I hope that you've learned some stuff here. If you want more information on this, go on over to Lifelong Learner. There's an accompanying blog post that talks about some of the key points here that we went over, as well as a full transcript, so you can get some of those scripts in there if you want. Also, I would encourage you to go check out the Lifelong Learner Mindshare group. We have hundreds of people over there on Facebook. If you type in Mindshare on Facebook, you should be able to join it. It's an open group, so anybody can join. And basically, people are constantly sharing business tactics like this, like cold emails. I do a lot of screencasts of just stuff that I'm doing in my business. It's kind of like a behind the scenes view, and you can get all that right there for free. So just facebook.com and search Mindshare and ask to join, and I will approve you when I get a chance. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions, just ask in the comments of the blog post. And I hope this has been helpful. And if there's other topics that you'd like me to potentially do another self-interview on, or have somebody on there, just let me know on Twitter. Maybe we can do another one of these around the topic that you're interested in. Thanks again. Have an awesome day. I just want to say thanks for listening to another episode of The Competitive Edge. If you enjoyed the ideas in this episode and want access to all the conversations, tactics, and mind shares we'll be sharing in the future, the best thing you can do is subscribe to The Competitive Edge on iTunes. And while you're there, if you felt like this show has made a positive impact on your day, it'd be great if you could leave us a review on iTunes as well. Now, I know we covered a lot in this episode, and there might be a few key ideas or tools that you want to remember. So we went ahead and compiled all of the notes, links, and even a full searchable transcript of this conversation for you on lifelonglearner.com. That's life-longlearner.com. I also want to give you the details on a cool contest I'm running right now at lifelonglearner.com/fun. By entering the contest, you'll have a chance to win everything from Amazon gift cards to a free month of having your very own dedicated virtual assistant, to an opportunity to come and hang out with me and my buds for a few days, where we'll teach you how to create your very own passive income stream. To enter this contest and learn more about everything we're giving away, head on over to lifelonglearner.com/fun.